Hey, welcome everyone. I got a long episode for you today. It's going to be Costa Rica. So Emily and I and her mom actually did a Costa Rica trip it was January 2024. So 8 months ago, something like that. And we had an amazing time. We spent 3 weeks there and we hit a bunch of different spots. I actually have them written down because I had forgotten most of them. But I think it was kind of 4 major areas that we hit. And so I wanted to share that trip with you guys. So I have a ton of photos. Here's just a small selection of some of my favorites. But yeah, I have a ton of photos I want to share with you guys. I'm going to share the story behind some of them. I have a few little photos and video behind the scenes from the trip. Not a lot, but moreover, I just wanted to share the story of this incredible trip. It was my first time ever in the tropics. And let me just start off by saying we wanted to approach it a little bit differently. I know most bird photographers and wildlife photographers, when they head to these areas, they work with guides, they go to lodges, they go to these sort of set up staged areas where birds, specifically birds, are attracted by feeders, both for hummingbirds and other birds. They put fruit out and they just bring in a lot of different birds to those areas and make it pretty easy to photograph them. I knew it was going to be a challenge if we didn't do that, but I was also completely okay with that challenge. I knew we were going to be there for 3 weeks, and so I was fine with just exploring the whole area myself and just seeing how it would be. If you haven't listened, there's an episode of my podcast out. It's been a while now. It was shortly after that where I talked a lot about this trip and my approach to it. But basically, it was harder than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be hard, but it kind of surprised me with how hard it was to actually get the photos of these different species. And I knew the jungle was going to be a challenge, but what I didn't really expect was how hard it was going to be just to find subjects. I kind of had the impression that birds were going to be everywhere, and yes, it's the jungle, it's thick and it's dark and it's going to be hard to see them down under the canopy and stuff like that, which I was fully ready for. But what I didn't expect were these periods of times where I'd go out into the jungle on my own, trying to find something to photograph and just see and hear nothing. Or I'd hear stuff and it was all canopy top and just I'm down here on the ground and there's nothing I can't even see them, let alone photograph them. So that was a tough thing. But I still had a really good time. I can't remember how many species I ended up photographing. It was quite a lot in the end, but I added a lot of lifers to my species list, and I got a lot of photos I was really happy with too, even going with this approach. So we'll start out here. We started out in San Jose. We flew into San Jose and we just stayed at the Hotel Marriott Hacienda Belen. Forgive my pronunciation of all this stuff. I'm not a Spanish speaker at all, so bear with me on the pronunciations of these locations. In any case, we started there at the hotel and just doing some walking around there the first evening, I think. Just started photographing some stuff. And so I'll bring the settings up here. Just as always, me doing a portrait, then trying to show off the habitat, classic. There was this one area right in the hotel where they had done some recent gardening, but it must have been a low-lying area, so it was kind of flooded and a little muddy and just puddles everywhere. And these lapwing, which were these? Yeah, southern lapwing, were posted up there. And there was a pair of them hanging out. So I had the 100 or 400 the first time I saw them, but I wanted to go back with the bigger lens. You can see I'm shooting some of these with the 100 to 400. So shot some other stuff, saw a caracara, and then some of these parrots, which were really fun. My first time seeing parrots in the wild and photographing them. So that was kind of cool. And then I went back with the big lens, and I had brought with me a 1.4 teleconverter to add into that 400 with the built-in teleconverter for 2 reasons. One, I've been shooting a lot more video, and having a ton of reach with the video I've found pretty compelling for getting close-up video shots of different species. But the other thing is I knew in the jungle, because it was going to be dense and a lot of busyness, there might be times where I want just a ton of focal length to narrow down and isolate. And that was what happened on this first bird. So here you go. I have both teleconverters in 700, almost 800 millimeter. And so just trying to photograph some close-ups of this bird, this lapwing, as it was kind of moving through this vegetation. Also trying to hide the the hotel that was kind of surrounding it. So shallow depth of field, narrowing it down was definitely the key there. By the way, for everybody watching, this is going to be a longer video. All right. I have a lot of photos here. I'm probably not going to go through every individual photo. I might kind of scroll through some sections, but it was 3 weeks. It was a big trip, so it's going to be a long one. So hopefully I can keep it interesting enough for you and keep you excited with some of these photography examples and stories from all of this. So after that, we were just there for a day. The next move was to a place called Jaguar Jungle Lodge out on the Osa Peninsula. And so to get there was the only way to get there, is what I'm trying to say, was by boat. And so this was kind of really like the first introduction to this all. And let me tell you guys, I was not expecting this at all. I was sort of surprised when Emily's mom had set this up. Like, we kind of let her do a lot of the planning and just had a little bit of input, because we just were, both Emily and I, photographically, we weren't like, we want to target species or any of that stuff. We just wanted to go and see the place and appreciate it. Both Emily and her mom had been before. It was my first time, but I still was just happy with just going to see the place wherever we were and just seeing what we were going to see, you know? So anyway, Emily's mom set this up, and we're going down this river. It's peaceful and calm and beautiful, and you're seeing all this just jungle habitat. And then we get to the ocean. And when I tell you the ocean was rough, the Pacific Ocean that day, my first thought was, oh, I guess we have to turn around now, because I saw these crashing waves from where the river was meeting the ocean. And I'm like, there's no way this little boat is going to make it through that. But these amazing captains were incredible. And here, I'll just show you a little video of us going through some of these waves so you can see them just crashing. These captains just waited for the big sets to come through. And then you can hear the crowd even making noise here. And then they just blasted through it all. It was incredible. And so then you get to the lodge. This is the lodge we stayed at. And this is a boat, by the way. Like, I think it held like 20 people, maybe, something like that. So not a massive boat. It was all beach landings. And so you had to actually, they turned the boat in, back it into there. And then, like, in between the waves, you're like jumping off the boat. They grab all your luggage and gear off of there. I had my camera set with me on my backpack. So did Emily, because we weren't about to let them handle it. But still, you're hoping you're not going to fall in the water in the ocean. It was hectic. It was an incredible introduction to Costa Rica. And I'm so glad it went this way, because it was just like all in right off the bat, right into it, you know, just like right into remote jungle staying, just incredible, incredible place. And I'll show you this video. Emily's mom was kind enough to get us this wonderful suite, this little hut right out by the beach. And I had the drone with me, so I was able to do some footage. There we are chilling one day. This area right there, those trees, that's where you'll see later this group of monkeys would come through. So they would just come right through that yard there. But it was like we had our own private little space out there, and you can see like this coastline was stunning. So just an amazing, amazing place to kick off the trip for sure. So that was where we were staying. But yeah, I'll take it back in here real quick just to show you kind of, yeah, so this jungle, like these palm trees and everything right here, this is the area that these monkeys would end up coming through. Right off the bat, got to see a was it yellow-throated? Yeah, yellow-throated toucan on the property there, which is really cool. Some different parrots species, so played with them, tried to get creative. This is one of those scenarios where saw the bird first, and you're going to see a lot of this. These were lifer birds for me, so a lot of them I just wanted to document. I had never seen them before, so just kind of add them. I do personally keep a list of things I photograph, so I just wanted to kind of add them like that. But I would then immediately try to make it better. So first shot against the clouds, next shot trying to find some background, next shot I went and tried to find some foreground, and then this was one shot that I was really happy with to try and get interesting and creative with and make something a little bit more visually fun to look at of this species. So that was kind of fun. And then there were some woodpeckers right on the property there. And this was all just right around the resort where we were staying, even though there were some trails that you could wander off, which were really cool. So yeah, here's the original straight out of camera. There's the final edit on this golden naped woodpecker. I'm not going to remember most of the species, so I'll have to bring up the info to see that. And we don't really need to go through all the species. I just want to kind of talk about the photography experience. So, you know, with all of this kind of stuff, a lot of it was, I wanted to show off habitat, but a lot of it was so busy that it was try to isolate it, you know, if it was too busy. And here's me just like documenting different species. My first time ever seeing leafcutter ants. So that was really cool. This is just the sun in the background, and it was actually daytime. So I'll show you. This is what the scene looked like as these ants were just kind of just going right across. I had the sun back there, so it was filtering through the forest there. And so I started trying to play around with that and do some different interesting stuff. So here were some of the shots. I tried some backlit just against the green, then tried to play with more of these silhouettes of these leaf shapes and the individual ants coming through, which I found kind of a fun concept to try and figure out. So yeah, just playing with the sun back there. These guys were all over the place. We just ended up calling them red butts. Is it scarlet rump tanager, I think? Yeah, I got it. Yeah, and again, just, like, look at the settings, right? 60th of a second, 4000 ISO. Like, that's what kind of you're dealing with here. It was dark a lot. It really was. So, and this is all out on the Osa Peninsula, first stop. So just photographing what we found. We did, I think, day 2, something like that out there. We did a guided hike. The guide showed us a sloth that was way up high in a tree, but just cool to see. This was what I expected it to be, in one of those scenarios where you're going to see more stuff because the guide is local. He knows his stuff, and they were amazing guides, but it's not a photography guide. And so they're not out there. We're not out there in great light, which, by the way, that was another thing that I didn't expect. 3 of the major locations we were at were all coastal. Only one of them we went up into the kind of center of the country, into the higher elevation cloud forest area. That was the only area that ever had clouds living up to its name. Every other coastal area was just full sun all the time, all day long, basically. I can't recall a single day where we had cloud cover or any meaningful cloud cover during the day outside of the cloud forest area. And so it meant incredibly challenging shooting conditions. Like, once the sun came up, it was a mess in the jungle. It just was harsh light, nastiness everywhere. And so it was like dark in the morning under that heavy canopy, and then quickly transitioning to light like this, kind of crappy, So that was a big challenge I didn't foresee happening, is just that much sun. So back to the photos. Anyway, this guided trip was great. We got to see a bunch of stuff. I just did my best to document things as we went along the way. It was really cool seeing this baby monkey. I forget, was this spider? Yeah, spider monkey. Really neat to see that. So super cute. I mean, like, brand new baby. Just trying to do what I can to make something interesting as we're going along, and having very little time because the group is kind of moving along. It was a small group, which was nice, just 4 of us, but it was moving along. And, we didn't just get to really stay and play with some of these birds, but these were some of the things that we found along that trip and was able to get decent photos of. So played with some silhouettes here, showed us some bats, which were really cool, these tiny little bats. And then I don't remember what there you go, Picari. Got to see them, got to see an anteater, which was really cool. I had no idea they lived in trees and did stuff. And then some different lizard species and stuff like that. A Trogon, which was really cool, and like pushing the boundaries here on these. This is red-capped mannequin, the female. 7200 ISO. So just documenting the shot, right? Back to the resort one of these days, and then, I don't know, let's see if this is the first time the monkey troop kind of came through the area. And this was when we were staying right by the hut on the side there. And there you go, free bird flying over. I tried my best to get creative. I really was trying to incorporate these palm trees. I think have really neat lines. So I played with a lot of silhouettes, trying to minimize things, because if not, it was just kind of messy, So here's straight out of camera. There's the final edit. And just, I think the lines and the prettiness of these palm fronds can be really neat, but these monkeys were on the move. They were moving through quick. There was a lot of them. There was action everywhere. It was a lot to pay attention to. The other thing I was trying was portraits, but I was shooting the 100-400 on this first time because I figured, like, hey, I want to show the habitat and when I can, and then get some close-up shots. The problem with that was it was tough to get clean portraits, like you can see here, like, and the light was spotty and tough when they came through on this day as well. So you can see it's just kind of a little bit of a busy mess, I mean, these are the best of the shots too that I kept, right? I got rid of a lot of other stuff, but challenging conditions, just trying to show off these babies. Then I figured that I noticed them making this jump consistently as the group would move through. And so ended up being able to stay there in time when they were making those jumps, which was cool. just trying to get more shots of those babies. All right, this was one of the first shots where I really felt like, okay, cool, I finally got something creative. Although, hilariously, it's an American oyster catcher, species I photograph like crazy. But I've never photographed them in tropical areas, and so I've never been able to photograph them with palm trees and stuff like that. So this bird was pretty far away, but I realized I could get in a position to line this up. And there was crashing waves back in between this set of rocks and that set of rocks, and it was creating this mist that was glowing from the backlit sun, and it just created a lighter area there with this just like, it looked amazing to the eye. It looked even better to the eye, I will say. But anyway, I tried to get creatively, some creative compositions to show off the habitat. Went vertical, 290 millimeter there, waiting for some splashing waves back there. That's the straight out of camera. There's the final edit on that one. So getting some interesting stuff there. In the meantime, this common black hawk, there we go, had been flying around the area, feeding and fishing in that area, which was really cool. So I managed to get some shots of him going through that. But look at this, like you could see the rays of light going through the mist in there, getting the bird to stand out. It was pretty incredible scene. And I will say, I've never worked on a coastline quite like this. This is the shot I wanted. I saw the waves crashing. This is the shot I wanted, and look what he did. He was flying right here, nice and profiled, and then he turns right when the wave is the best, and it's just a useless shot. I was this close, guys, this close to compositing those and trying to like take that version and then put this wave in there, but I don't know, it's just not for me. But my gosh, if he would have stayed in that position with that wave crash like that, that would have been even better. Anyway, got him taking off again. So that was cool. That's the straight out of camera. I was trying to expose for this super bright sky, but kept the ISO low enough that I could pull that detail back. And then he landed off further, so just played with some clouds once that sun had gone down. But all in all, a really fun creative session with this bird along the shoreline there. Got to show off some different habitat, even though it's a species I photographed before. It was really fun. And then just photographing some scenic shots because there was nothing else around at the time. I don't know if this was the same night or a different. I guess it was. I guess it was the same night. This Black Hawk had, like I said, had been flying around, but he kept landing in weird spots. So for this one, I loved the look of him against this. So straight out of camera, he's kind of lost. I did just figure, like, with my eye, he stood out really good. So I figured if I lighten things up and then keep him dark, which is what I did in the final edit here, he would show off kind of well. I think it worked. It's a shot I'm really happy with. And again, new species and a creative shot. I'm just going to crack the window open here. It's getting a little hot. So, just being able to show off these birds in their habitat. Like, the portraits are great, and I love shooting portraits of birds. And you'll see I'll do some of those with this guy. I get a little bit closer as he flew down on the rocks, and I was able to kind of sneak up on him. But to me, when I'm in an area like this, like, yeah, the portrait is great to see the bird itself, but it's never showing like where it lives. And in this case, like, what a cool, unique thing that this bird does. It's a hawk that's feeding on crabs and stuff like that, different crustaceans around the shoreline, like these rocky coastlines. That's very unique. I've never seen a raptor do that. And so I wanted to show that off, plus that sky was like stunning, so I was able to sneak up on him, shoot through some stuff there, get some interesting clouds and foreground and stuff like that. So I was able to get some closer shots. This was all just after that sun had finally dipped below the horizon, but you can see the sky was stunning. And then he went back up to that palm tree that he was hunting off of, and then I was able to move around and play with some foreground here and try some different stuff. So you can see I played with a few different compositions, this one being the one I think I was the most happy with. But yeah, like there he was out there just in that open space like that. You can see him just chilling right up there. So hard to kind of, really get him to stand out for all of these shots. Next morning, just while we're eating breakfast, like sitting at the lodge where the restaurant area was, where they would feed you, just some different wrens around there, really stunning. And then we did go out and do a fun snorkel trip, which was amazing. Got to see some incredible stuff. Here is, let's see, yeah, here we go. Just show you just like a sea turtle there. I forget which kind, but here I dove down to get a little closer to him so you can see. It's just kind of swimming around down there. So that was really cool. We got to see tons of fish. The clarity of the water was amazing. So just a really cool time with that. So we did do some other touristy stuff. It wasn't like I said, it wasn't a fully immersed photography trip. Some hummingbirds around there, just trying to get some shots of them. Saw my first, I think it was a green kingfisher. Yep. Just a really horrible documentary shot, and he was like a classic kingfisher, gone after that. Anyway, more fun with the wrens. This one I like a lot, and these are riverside wrens. That's it. So that was a cool shot I got of him. And then these red-capped mannequins, super cute. They were hanging out around that property there. This was a lot of what you would see of them. But I spent some time with him. We went out onto this clearing here, and then I was able to get him like this with some really fun background, really cool bokeh. Again, just shooting with the 100 to 400, just being portable and flexible. I wasn't going to carry the big, heavy prime lens with me all the time, especially when it was just like hanging out and eating and stuff like that. So that was that. And then I'll go through another round of the monkeys here. I do want to show you like one of the things the second time we had an experience with was I realized I wasn't eye level enough with them. I was doing a lot of shooting up. And so we brought this chair out. I was able to actually use that to climb up on this wall and stand up there. This was just the wall around the outdoor shower there. But it put me at a much better perspective to be able to do things like this, and I did go with the big lens and that teleconverter, the added teleconverter, as well as switching in and out the built-in one. So I was able to get some close-up portraits and, like I talked about, kind of minimize all that distraction, and show off those crazy fangs that these monkeys have. What are these? White-faced capuchin. So here's a whole set of them, just trying to do some different stuff there. Really trying to focus on the babies. They're so adorable. And so I wanted to get, a lot of times there was these like little interactions between the parent and the young, hanging on to them, which were really cool. So that was really neat. So they're straight out of camera. You can see it's kind of messy still, even at 784 millimeter, but with a little editing, you can kind of clean it up and get something like that. And they just were all about these coconuts. It was so funny. Emily had one that she had gotten a drink. They had bought a drink and it was just sitting on the ground. The monkeys came right down, grabbed it, ran away with it, even with the baby. It was so cute. So, and then they all fought amongst themselves to get this one coconut. But most of the time they were actually ripping open their own coconuts and tearing into them. So just trying to get different behavior. This little guy kept coming in after the adult and licking up some of the spillage, which was really cute. But then there was some nice interactions between the adults and the young and stuff like that. So just really trying to play with that. I shot a lot of video of these guys as well. This time, however, I had a second camera body with the 24 to 120 on it ready to go because I knew I wanted to try and get this again. Once they followed that same pattern, they did it the second day when they came through. The whole group came in. It was a different time, but they did that same jump. And this time I wanted to just show it off a little bit better. Arguably, I think I did better the first time. They just didn't jump as well in like the spots that I wanted. But anyway, we had an absolute blast. It was so cool experiencing these monkeys just right in your space there where you're staying and just playing with like some different compositions, trying to get some nice portraits and different looks with these guys. So I'll just kind of flip through those pretty quick. There's one that was a standout for me. That's the final edit right there. Just trying to use some of that layering there, and this one I did not use the built-in teleconverter, so a little bit more space on that one. But yeah, just seeing what I can do. Here's one of these. Like, he really stood out to me jumping out of there. So with a little editing, you just kind of dodge and burn and kind of show him in that habitat, and with all that fun behavior. The sun did get lower with these guys, so I did get some fun ones of them coming across and jumping like that. Like, this guy would have been so good if he was like in here, like that shot with the monkey right here. Would have been so good, but he jumped a little high there. So can't get them all, Sunset was amazing. That's what it looks like at almost 800 millimeter. And then the day we were leaving, we were just waiting that morning to leave. And then the yellow-throated toucan finally came and gave a much better appearance that day. And I did use the teleconverter because it was pretty far away and high in this tree. So I was trying to just kind of narrow it down with him eating those. It turned out, I didn't know, but much later in another location, we were going to have some good times. So left there. Next location we went to was Nosara. So this was, we stayed at the Bodhi Tree Yoga Resort. Here's the wrens coming in to feed on the breakfast there, which is pretty funny. Not a great spot for photography. Really big tourist spot. Found a few things around there. I'm trying to think if this was the spot. I think this was the spot. I just did a lot of walking around. The light was tough, just documenting what I could see, and not getting anything amazing. But I did spend one of the mornings. I went to Lagarda Lodge, which was Nocera Biological Reserve, and that'll be coming up shortly here. And so let me get to that. Here we go. And I did see some stuff there, but again, this is another one of those examples where there's just a trail system in the biological reserve there. So I figured this is going to be a great place, lots of diversity, right? I walked around for almost 3 hours, and I think I saw maybe 6 different bird species. That was it. There was just not a lot there. It was really fascinating. I just expected the jungle to be birdier, basically. But I did my best, got some cool shots. This bird was really neat. White-necked puffbird. So there you go. That was cool. I was able to play with some foreground on him. It started out in the open like that. There was a pair of them there. But then I found a little foreground spot to make an interesting shot and did that with it. Played with a couple different compositions. Cool little squirrel species. Some, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name on these guys. What are these little guys? Coati. There we go. So I got to see some of those, and then some howler monkeys. So that was cool. But again, these shots, they're just so high, crap light. There's just nothing much to do with making anything good out of that. It's kind of cute, but the light's pretty bad. Cool behaviors anyway. So playing with that, I did get to see one of these trogons. I forget which one this is. Elegant trogon. But again, he didn't last long, and light mediocre. Couldn't fully dial in a great background with these bright spots up there. So just a big challenge, and not a great pose or anything like that. These jays, I tried like crazy to get a good shot of these jays. Struggled. This was some of the best I ever got of them. It wasn't easy at all, guys. That's what I can say in the end. Let's see if this is our next spot. Yeah. Okay, so we were there for a few days, and then we left and went to this was finally up into the cloud forest. This is where things got much better. The majority of the photography that I was really happy with came from that location. We went to Tabacan Resort, which is right near the Arenal Volcano area, and so that's where we spent 4 days, maybe, something like that. And this is where I started. This was all on the property of that resort. But then I think it was Emily or Emily's mom had found there was another lodge about 20-minute drive from there that had some paths that you could walk through and everything. And so we ended up going there. But here's some of the lodge stuff, just playing with the different hummingbirds right at that resort. And just really enjoying these, I don't know, whatever these trees were, almost looking fern-like, just great patterns. And then all of course, the local flowers and stuff with these hummingbirds feeding on them. The banana quits were really cool and challenging. So had a good time trying to get those. I forget what these guys were. Variable seed eater right here. But, I had a great time playing with the vibrant colors of the jungle and these. But these were all a bit more manicured. This wasn't just like the regular jungle. This was at the resort. All of these flower beds were, I'm sure they're all native, but they're all, planted and managed, and so they're open and clean, and it just makes things look better, so that was helpful for a lot of this stuff. And so just trying to see what we can do, playing with silhouettes, playing with texture. That was one thing I really tried to do. Was there's so many lines and textures in the jungle, but the palm ones to me are the most visually pleasing and consistent and have neat patterns to them. So anytime I had a bird around them, I really tried to work that and incorporate it as well as I could. So all of this stuff so far, here's one of our hikes. There's Emily and her mom. This was, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was like a waterfall hike, one of those hanging bridge hike places. So got to see our first mott there, which was really cool. This one's broad-billed, I think. Yeah, broad-billed mott. Beautiful, stunning bird. Very cooperative, this particular individual, which was nice because, again, the light was horrendous. It was full sun, middle of the day, and so I just had to find an open shade and a clean background, but thankfully he stayed put long enough for me to figure that out and get a little bit of diversity and variety of photos on this guy. But you can see this harsh light coming in the background. Just not great, you know. But you make it work. You do your best you can, you know. I brought the 100 to 400 with me on this because it was all just this long kind of walk, and I didn't want to drag the big lens around and stuff like that. But we had some really fun with these banana quits on some flowers there. And what was this guy? Yeah, buff-rumped warbler. That was neat to see. He was hanging out on this barbed wire a lot, but he moved over. Just some of the trees there. I mean, come on. It's incredible, isn't it? And then just documenting some other stuff as we went along. There's some of the waterfalls on the hike, me and Emily. So I think, yeah, here we go. This is the first trip over to that. We then went to this other lodge. And so that was the Arenal Observatory Lodge, just really close to where we were staying at that other resort. And this ended up being the most productive. We spent a lot of time with these different hummingbirds, just on the native plants there, but it was all in like a manicured garden area because it was more open. It had open shade, but thankfully all day long was pretty cloudy there. Occasional little bits of drizzle and rain, but not bad, but just lots of overcast light, which I will say, you know, for dramatic light and everything wasn't the best, but to be able to actually have some time to shoot was great. It was just nice to be out, to be able to play around for hours and just see what we can do. Playing with these hummingbirds was so much fun, an incredible challenge. They don't sit still long. I'm sure many of you know that, but we weren't doing them on feeders. It was all just on the natural flowers, which was cool. So this was the first walk around that property and getting to see a bunch of different stuff there. Some caracaras out in some fields, which was really cool. And then some more of these seed eaters, parrots, mannequins. They did have an observation tower that went up to the top of the canopy. Climbed it twice. Hell of a view up there. Barely saw any birds. Like this was one from up there, and that was one from up there. But those were about the only two photos I got that were worthwhile. Didn't stay up there real long, so I don't know if that would have changed, but we also knew there were so many more hummingbirds down in these gardened areas. So we decided to spend more of our time down there and getting those. So yeah, this was the first walk day still, just trying some different stuff around that property. And we did spend a good chunk of time there. It was cool to see these guys, Montezuma's. I don't even know how to pronounce the rest of the name there. It's a tough one, but neat birds, goofy sound. Never got a really good portrait of them though. So yeah, Emily really loved the hummingbirds too, and as did I. And it was a garden area, but at least it felt sort of natural the way we were shooting it. You know what I mean? Like they're not going right to a feeder and you don't have to work around the feeder, or it's not like set up that way. But it is, you know, gardens provided for these nectar eaters to really bring them in. Cool to see chestnut-sided warblers down there and non-breeding plumage, so that was neat. So let's see. I got to see these guys, agouti, a few times, and then some more of the coati, which were really neat. I did really like this. I had wished I was walking around with just a big lens on this day, I think. I don't even know if I had my 100 to 400 with me. I sincerely wished, though, that I had my wide with me, because this is what it was like. This was shot on my phone. Like, they were so friendly. I just sat down and they would like walk up rooting around like right next to you there, you know? So I could have done some really fun stuff if I had my wide with me, but of course that day I didn't, you know? That's just how it goes sometimes. Let's see. So this was the next thing that happened. All right. At this lodge, they did have feeder setups there. I did find that out after, I think, my second visit there. Off of their restaurant area, they had an observation deck and feeder setups. It was just like big metal platforms and these fake metal prong things, and they stuck all the fruit on there, and the birds would come in like crazy and feed on it. So photographically, horrible, you know, just nothing good there. But what I did figure out and realize is there was a lot of other birds that were coming in that, like these smaller ones, these smaller tanagers and stuff, that maybe weren't getting directly to the fruit. Sometimes they would, but even if they wouldn't, they were eating all these natural berries on the bushes and plants that were just around where they were feeding them. And so that's what I ended up concentrating on. So I didn't completely not take advantage of feeder setups, because this was probably, I don't know, a week and a half, almost probably about a week and a half into the trip at this point. And I had realized then how much of a struggle Costa Rica was. So at that point, I was kind of seeking out any advantage I could get, but I still didn't want to shoot them like on the feeder really, because number one, this feeder was kind of hideous. And so the photographs would have looked bad. But number two, it's not the experience I wanted there. And I completely get why everybody does too, because like I said, it was unbelievably challenging. And if I really wanted to maximize my time and results there, I think you have to go to these stage setups, like that's the only thing that's going to give you any consistency and chance of getting these birds out in the open and in the clear for a good shot. But I was okay with the challenge. Even though it was tough at times, I was definitely had some times where I was struggling and wishing I had more opportunity. But once I figured this out, like, okay, there's birds feeding on natural plants around the feeder area. It's just bringing them in. I'm okay with that compromise. So that's what I ended up doing a lot of. And that's what you're going to see a lot of here. Like all of these birds now are all around the feeder setup, but they were feeding on the natural berries and stuff. So I was able to get a little bit more diversity of these species and some really good shots because of it, because they were there. I think they were more used to people because there was always people up on the observation platforms and stuff. And so that just made it more acceptable for these birds to be around there without being quite as skittish as well. So that was another help. And so, I just started playing around, shooting everything natural I could in those areas around the feeder station at this one particular lodge. So it ended up being, for the next few days that we were there, it ended up being a combination of that. When I knew they were feeding, they were timed feeding. So I figured that out, their schedule, and I would go a little bit before and then wait for the feeding and then work with the birds for a while there. And then we would move over to the hummingbird area, which was just, like I said, open garden, manicured areas, and then work with those as well. But you can see I definitely got some result. This is cool. This is like a foreground bird. And he was sitting up on one of those feeding platforms there. So I was actually using him for foreground to shoot through to this scarlet rump tanager female. I guess I did get a better shot of that. Still nothing amazing though, but this was the kind of stuff I was after, man. I just love the light and the colors and the plants that were around, and these birds are all so stunning. And so, just playing around, trying to get creative with that. It was fun to finally see some aracari there as well. That was definitely a species I wanted to see more of once I kind of learned about them. But these tanager species, this one's a bay-headed tanager, just stunning birds, really. So there's the final image on that one. And then back to the hummingbirds, and so I'll just kind of sift through a bunch of these real quick and stop on some ones. The black-crested coquette was definitely one of my favorites. So tiny, but so elegant and beautiful. Really fast, always being chased off by something else, so very challenging. The larger hummingbirds were constantly chasing them off. This was back at that feeder station, just shooting around it, which was cool. So finally got some of these aracari. This was around the feeder station there, which was really cool. Just trying to get some portraits of them perched naturally before they went over to the feeder station kind of thing. And so that was definitely the deal. Which one was this? This was the collared aracari. And then I did get to see some fiery build at our last location, our last destination. These tanagers are stunning. Compositions like this were key to me, trying to play off the lines and the vegetation and showing that kind of stuff off. And then just playing with foreground colors and depth and things like that for some of these different tanager species, and trying to get them doing some cool behavior when they're feeding, playing with the interesting light, and then back to the hummingbirds and just everything else. So I'm just going to fly through some of this stuff, just kind of give you a sense of what I was doing there. But I can say, guys, overall, really fun, but oh my gosh, what a challenge when you're trying to shoot this way and not using the feeder setups. The hummingbirds were a lot easier to just shoot in the flowers and play with light like this and depth and foreground and just do interesting, fun stuff with it. Like I really, really enjoyed playing around with these hummingbirds, especially when they would perch and you could really do some stuff versus just the hovering. But and then finally this black-crested coquette landed in just such a great spot. I mean, look at that thing. It's so adorable, isn't it? Crazy, crazy bird. So really neat to see that. And we ended up racking up a lot of species. I did get some of these guys in flight as well. just, sitting when they're perched, it was really fun. Playing with the flowers, just trying to show off the habitat as best I could. And then these plants playing with these different lines. It was raining at one point, so just different. I didn't want close-up portraits of everything, even though I did end up getting some close-up portraits of some of these hummingbirds, but like just shooting through the foregrounds, playing with the textures and the curves and the lines. And whenever a bird would sit still long enough like this, oh man, was it a blast. Because like you can see all these different shots I did of the same bird just sitting in the same spot. And some of them were like clearing out in the open like this, just taking the clean shot, which is good. But then to me, I really love this kind of stuff, just getting in there. And there's the final edit on this one. Shooting through all kinds of stuff, finding little openings to shoot through there and making a more interesting creative shot, and then getting right back out there and getting in its face and shooting something really close, These guys, what were they called? Commentati flycatcher. Yeah, so tiny and cute, bouncy as hell, challenging to get a clean shot. Saw this guy at one point somewhere, and then finally did get one of these guys, the keel-billed toucan. About the best shot I was able to get of them. Just tough. Didn't see a lot of them in good places. So anyway, let's kind of sift through. Let's see if there's any other standout shots here. Here's another one playing with some foregrounds, some texture and stuff like that with the hummingbirds. Just taking some clean shots out in the open too, using really nice color schemes and the flowers and everything like that, trying to just get those nice clean portraits. Last day at that lodge that we had went to, me and Emily went one time in the morning, and then we did get the yellow-throated toucans. Two of them just flew in out of nowhere. We were shooting hummingbirds. I looked over in these eye-level bushes, and they were in there feeding on the berries. So what a wonderful experience. It was our best experience with them. We were able to get a ton of different shots and behavior and video and stuff like that of them feeding, tossing these berries back. And it was all eye level, just right there. There you can see the pair of them together right there. So it was just a wonderful experience to get them like that instead of just getting them on a feeder station. Cut to the last destination. We left that area, the cloud forest, and then we went down to where Manuel Antonio Nature Reserve is, and we stayed in, I think it's Capos, right around that area. This was, here you go, this was like the area around the house we stayed in for the last week. And so this was just some walks we did around the neighborhood, and we were able to see some stuff like this, get some of these tanagers in some really cool spots. Different, what were these guys? Oh, the honey creepers, that's right. So that was cool. Played with some of the parrots. Again, trying to work with those lines, just getting something creative there. There's Emily having a blast. And then we got the fiery-billed aracari. Tough shots. We saw them way out. They actually flew towards us as we were walking through this neighborhood. This was my best shot I think I got of him, just up in that kind of space. And then, of course, you ready for this? The day after we shot this, we went out to a restaurant. Didn't bring any cameras. We were just going out to eat. We walk up, park at this restaurant, and right there, 15 feet away, eye level, sitting on like a natural perch, like a little branch, fiery-billed aracari, just right there. If either of us had had any camera, we would have been able to get headshots of the thing, like frame fillers. And he just sat there for a while we watched it. I think we took some photos and videos with our phones, but like it was a good lesson to always bring a camera with you. But we were going out to eat and just being casual. We didn't feel like dragging the cameras along, but that's how it goes sometimes, right? I'm sure everybody's experienced that kind of thing. All right, so that's about it. We did some walks around Manuel Antonio. We did manage to get, this guy was Laughing Falcon, which is really cool on one of those walks. Here's a video of me just trying to like work that set. So you can kind of see, this is the habitat, right? And the bird is like buried up in there somewhere, and it's just a mess. He's up high, full sun. The light's just a mess. So like, what do? Like, how do you make that work? How do you make a good photo out of that? There he is. Look at this. There's the Laughing Falcon doing his laughing, right? So that's the challenge. But here's what I did. Try and find as much foreground as I could and a clean opening, and then edit something like that, So, and then maybe some openings. I think he moved around eventually. So trying to get some openings, but the light, these hot spots are horrible and everything. It was a challenge, But I was able to at least make something happen with that. Let's see. I think that's about it, guys. Saw a couple more of the Picari. And then the last, we did some walks in another place we found around there. That's right. Which actually, that's where that was from. That was not from Manuel Antonio. The last full day we were there is when we went to Manuel Antonio. Didn't see a whole hell of a lot there, but we did get another encounter with the monkeys, which was really cool. So we got to see them. They were super, super friendly there, just so used to all the people. And so they like came right up and were like walking along these railings and laying on them and stuff, being silly. They actually grabbed the lady's backpack one time because she was trying to basically get a selfie with the she was trying to reach out and touch it, which was like, I mean, you see the fangs on these things, it's like nuts. People do this. But it did allow us to get just some nice close portraits and stuff like that while we were going along there. And then we did one last hike, which we were able to find. We did find some more of the capuchins, but then this guy, which was like the last great shot, this orange collared mannequin. There we go. I tried like crazy to get some good shots. This was the best I could manage with him on that particular hike right there. Was something like that, but just an adorable little bird. He was just fast moving, getting all around there, and then wrapped up with an amazing sunset back at our place there, and that was the trip. So yeah, it was an incredible time. These are some of my favorites right here. I was really, really happy with how some of these images turned out, especially with our approach, and realizing like it was a lot more difficult than I expected there, but a great time overall. So glad we did it. So glad we did it the way we did. If I would change anything, if I went back, I think all I would do is just probably seek out some of those feeder places and then stay near them. I would just do more of that, because I still personally, just for myself, I don't want to just shoot them right on the feeder station. But I'm fine with the natural feeding all around it and then just giving yourself a little bit more of an opportunity, because the jungle's hard. It really is, but it's also a stunning place with a lot of stunning birds. So anyway, this was a long one, I know, guys, almost an hour. Anybody who stuck out with me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are liking these. I hope you're learning some stuff from it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about some of this photography. I'll do my best to answer it there. And if it's questions that are a little bit harder, I can always try and answer them in another one of these videos, but I'm going to keep doing them. And if you've ever seen any trips or outings I've done that you'd like to see me do one of these sessions on, let me know that as well. That'd be great. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. See you on the next one.